Okay, I think we're live. So for those of you that are just tuning in, this is Jennifer Barcelos, and I am the founder and CEO of NamaStream Software. And I have with me today Vanessa Birnbaum, who is the co-founder of All You Can Yoga and also the founder of Build Your Yoga brand. And so we're really excited to have Vanessa here with us. We did a webinar together back in December, and I'm sure some of you have seen that one, and we ended up speaking a lot about branding. And so this webinar in many ways is a follow-up to that other conversation that we had in December. And if you want to tune into that, you can just search on NamaStream's YouTube channel and you can find that webinar from back in December. So anyway, without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Vanessa. Vanessa, if you could just tell us a little bit about where you're joining us from tonight and a little bit about your yoga journey and your journey in business with yoga.
Of course. Hi, Jenny. As always, it's such a pleasure to work with you and be with you here. And you guys for nerve-wracking, right? To be live webinar, but very, very exciting. So yeah, my background is in branding and graphic design, web design. I started a company named Vanilla Shake Media way before yoga was in my life. And it's a creative boutique. So mostly we're still are doing branding for startup companies. So of course, every brand is unique and every brand is completely different, but we developed a process that simply works. And of course, it's a self-inquiry process. It's a lot of soul that you have to put into it to really dive and deeply understand who you are, what you do, and for the sake of what. So that's my background. Then I started practicing yoga almost at the same time that I started working in branding and the creative field. So I have like more or less 10 years of practice. My yoga story begins with my little sister, who is 8 years younger than me, and she suffered from severe scoliosis. So also my family, everyone in my family are doctors. Both my parents and grandparents are doctors. So when my sister was diagnosed, the doctors said it's either surgery or yoga. And we were like, okay, what is this yoga thing? And my grandma is a yogi herself. So she was like, yoga, yoga, yoga all the way, you know. And surprisingly, my dad, who is a surgeon, agreed, okay, let's try yoga first. So I started taking my sister to yoga classes twice a week. And for 2 years, I was just watching. And like, you know, they asked me like, you want to join? Like, you're always here and you're like kind of interrupting us, you know? And I was saying, no. It was after 2 years that they said, listen, you can't be here anymore. If you don't practice, get out. And I was like, okay, I tried it, and that was it. I was hooked, and then you know how we get so addicted to yoga. So I started practicing every day, and I couldn't live without yoga. And my process of falling in love with yoga was really slow and gradually. So yeah, then I started becoming a teacher. And it was pretty much because I was getting injured. I was so every single class I was going to yoga and then 2 weeks off because of an injury. And no one could help me but myself. So I started studying. It took me 1 year. I started with my beloved teacher, Terry Cooper, I love you. And well, of course, you know how it is. Yoga also makes you a little bit crazy, so I left everything. I left Vanilla Shake Media, and All You Can Yoga started. And I'm still part of Vanilla Shake Media. I have a small share on the company, and actually both of my partners in Vanilla Shake Media are also involved in the creative of All You Can Yoga. So everything worked out, and the all you can yoga also started really organically, and it was a very natural process. I never intended for all you can yoga to start. And I was traveling with my yoga partners and sisters, Shana Dornbush and Alexandra Knafo. And we went actually to Southeast Asia. And Alexandra and myself were both yoga teachers. And we said, you know what, let's add purpose to this trip. Let's just go and give donation-based yoga classes. So, but we needed something to make it more magical. So we flat one. It's really raw, nothing fancy, just a piece of fabric. So yeah, this is it. So
Beautiful.
we started hanging the flag everywhere we went and just, announcing, here, yoga class today. And of course, our family wanted to see our process and our journey and our travels. So we opened an Instagram account and we started sharing our journey with our family and our friends. And suddenly, like, people started following. And one day we said, who wants to become an all-you-can-yoga ambassador? And this was like 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. It was January 13th. So we started like that, and people, started sending us emails. I want to become an all-you-can-yoga ambassador. I want to travel the world and teach yoga. That's our dream, right?
Yeah.
The endless dream of a yoga teacher is to travel the world and teach yoga. So we developed a system to kind of filter who was an all-you-can-yoga ambassador, and what does it mean to be an all-you-can-yoga ambassador. So pretty much an all-you-can-yoga ambassador is a person who is absolutely in love with yoga and shares the mission of making yoga more accessible to everyone everywhere. And since we were owners of Vanilla Shake Media, and we had all the resources for branding and marketing and web design, we started with our own resources and using the things that we already had. So we developed a website that allowed other teachers to share their journey. So everything was connected to their Instagram account, and they could share where were they teaching and what was their yoga story, and what we call the intensity meter, so you can get a feeling of what you're gonna get in that person's class. So that's what we did, and we're still doing that, and it's amazing. Our community is growing organically every day from all over the world. Actually, I received an email today from someone that was in Philippines, and she was like, I'm not going to be able to listen to the webinar live, but can you please send me the link afterwards? And she tells me I'm in Philippines, so it's going to be a completely different time zone. And the Philippines was one of the places where all you can yoga started. Mm. And we lost a flag in the Philippines airport, and I think that's why one of our biggest communities is over there. I think that flag is like somewhere traveling around the world from that side, and I think it was pretty amazing that she wrote me today. Many blessings from here to the Philippines. And yeah, that's more or less the story of how all you can was.
So I think that is a beautiful story. It's a journey of a really organic process of you creating this brand, not with any intention to have an impact on someone else, maybe more of an intention to have an impact on yourself, and to kind of be true to yourself, and take risks that allowed you as a human being, as a yoga teacher and an individual, to kind of take a leap, but also you invited other people into that vision for that brand. And so brand doesn't have to be someone trying to sell you something at all. Like, in many ways, All You Can Yoga is a community where you're inviting people to come in and participate, connect via Instagram. There's a lot that goes on around branding that isn't necessarily driven around money. And I think that that's a big misconception that a lot of people have, where you think about branding and you think that it's something that's cheapening. It doesn't have to be. And so I think that that's just one of the beautiful things about the way that you talk about branding and building a brand, is like your own story is so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things about branding is understanding what's your unique selling proposition. What's unique about you that nobody else has. And just to share what is it about All You Can Yoga is really our non-compete philosophy, because really everything that we do with our teachers and with the partners, because everyone that is an All You Can Yoga ambassador or an All You Can Yoga leader or an All You Can Yoga recommended studio, it's a partner. It's someone that is working with us. So their success is ours, and I think that's the uniqueness about All You Can Yoga. It's inclusive, it's welcoming, and it's like a community. Everyone to go there.
So I don't know, Vanessa, if you can you hear me well right now when I'm talking?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm getting a little bit of feedback when you're talking. I don't know if others are as well, or if it's my connection. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If anyone else is having trouble, this is just sort of one of the limitations of Google Hangouts, and I apologize for that if you're also experiencing some of that. I'm catching about 90% of what Vanessa says, which I think is good. It's good. I wish I was getting all 100%, but we will, I'm sure, do this again. So if you're missing little bits and pieces, not to fear. You'll find us again. So anyway, well, yeah, so I think talking about the unique selling proposition is a good place to sort of dive into what we wanted to bring everyone together to talk about this evening, which is this concept that's really kind of Vanessa's mastermind, which is build your yoga brand. And since our last conversation in December, and we were approached by so many people, in particular Vanessa was, about how do I work with you, how do I create a brand. Vanessa has sort of taken her her training in building a yoga brand and her background in marketing and from Vanilla Shake Media, and she's applied it directly to yoga branding, so building a yoga brand, building a brand within the yoga industry. And so I think that, Vanessa, why don't you talk a little bit more about kind of your signature 3-part process that you walk people through, and you've actually worked with people who have contacted us since the first webinar we did in December and worked through their own brand development process with them. So why don't we talk a little bit more about what that looks like?
Sure. So with Vanilla Shake Media, we do this process. So this is something that we came up, the 3 partners in Vanilla Shake Media, they are brilliant. I love them both. Mm-hmm. And what I did for the yoga brand is just to add a little bit more soul into it, because this process, we used to do it only for startup businesses. And with Vanilla Shake Media, they are master graphic designers, and you can see that in allyoucanyoga.com. You can see their amazing work. And so this process works for everyone that is actually building a brand. It doesn't necessarily need to be a yoga teacher or a yoga related product, but definitely I added a little bit more of the soul, of the purpose, and integrity of being a yogi and starting and practicing yoga for 10 years. So the process starts with a branding questionnaire. It's 37 questions. and it takes a little bit of time to answer the questionnaire, but I think it's amazing. I mean, every time that I do it for myself and also for All You Can Yoga, I get a different feeling and input from myself depending on where we are in our own process, right? So after you have done the questionnaire and you review it, and this exercise works best when you have a team and when you can verbalize your answers and listen to yourself talking. So some of these questions can be silly, but at the same time, it's a brainstorming. It's an ongoing brainstorming, and the more that you listen to yourself and the more that you answer these questions, the more feedback you get and the more insight you get. So after you have the branding questionnaire all done, it's always good.
Vanessa, can I interrupt you? Can you tell me
Yeah.
a little bit more about how long it takes someone on average to fill that out? Like, is that something that you would print out and then go to a cafe and have a cup of tea, or is it something you need to do over the course of several days? How do you recommend people go through that kind of process where they're strategically thinking through what their brand is?
I mean, you can sit down and do it in a day, but I recommend taking like a week to go back to it. It's 37 questions. It's not like it's going to be an essay,
Yeah.
but it's definitely something to think about and to come back to. So it has 5 parts. So the first part is pretty much general questions, like, what's your business called and why, and is there a unique story to your company, and how old is your company, what's the size of it, and all the basic questions, and it also applies for a yoga teacher. So, what is your yoga teacher name, or like nickname, or if you're building a new style that is unique to yourself, how do you want to be called? And then we go a little bit more in depth. So it's an in-depth interview. How did you start it? And and like, if your company or brand was a person, who would it be? Or if it was an animal, what it would be? Stuff like that. And like, what do you wear to work?
You know,
And
I'll just say that I think that for me, I wanted to answer these questions for myself and for my brand NamaStream. I wanted to answer these questions like as if I were talking to you, and so it helped me to sort of record them, like just to get out my voice memo app on my phone and just start talking. So I think also maybe it depends on the kind of learner you are, the kind of thinker you are too, that sometimes sitting down and writing out answers isn't always the most creative way to respond to something. It just depends on the way you think. So I just wanted to throw that out there in case there are other people who are like me and who are more auditory learners.
yeah, definitely. So there's 2 ways of doing this. You can basically, fill out the questionnaire yourself and then read it to someone else, you know, and the and most of the times when I work with people, they fill out the questionnaire and they want to read it, they want to read their questions to me, and I say, like, no, just let's talk about it, let's have a brainstorming, and you would get impressed. But like, the answers that they give me when they talk are not the same things that they write. So it's a very interesting process. It's very interesting to understand how really the brain works. And when you're writing, you kind of want to be like the writer, and be all philosophical, and people are into reality, like authenticity. So that kind of feeling you only get when you talk.
Yeah, I think it gets more rehearsed when you're writing. You want to be careful because you're
Exactly.
putting something down.
Yeah. So continuing, part 3 of the questionnaire is understanding the market and how it works, So how you see company today, and like when a person thinks about you and your brand, what's the first thing that comes to mind, and stuff like that. And you don't have to study this. It's what you get. That first response, that first thought that came to your mind. That's pretty much what the truth, about what you think.
Mhm.
And then part number 4 is all about your ideal customer. So it's the target, like who is your ideal customer, and who do you want to work with. So that's really important to understand and to internalize, because you will attract the people that you're going to work with. And the more clear that you are with, okay, I want to work, let's say, with older people, so you might want to study chair yoga, and how to give that, how to provide that. So the more clear that you are with who you want to spend your time, the better.
I love, there's my favorite question is in this section. Maybe you can give the answer that you that you have for All You Can Yoga as a sample
Which
answer.
one?
If your customer was a cartoon character,
Oh
who
my
would it
God.
be?
I can't believe you're asking me this.
That I love that. That really causes you to kind of get out of your headspace a little bit and have to just like think creatively. You can't answer that question without being.
All of my friends told me, don't say that answer again. And here I am. It would be Towley from South Park. If All You Can Yoga was a cartoon character, it would be definitely getting the yoga high every single day.
I love it.
Yeah, actually, me too.
Yeah.
And well, the last part is all about the identity, because let me go back a little bit and talk about branding itself. And branding is not marketing. Branding is not how you look. Branding is not the visual identity, the logo. Branding is not your tagline. Branding is like a combination of everything. It's an experience. So it's from the moment that people talk to you and see you, and your business cards, and it's everything. It's like, let's say, your reputation. It's how you walk, it's how you move, it's the things you do, it's how you dress, it's how you show up, it's everything. So I'm doing a branding course myself with a woman that I respect a lot, and she's actually the person who did Zumba's brand. And when we were talking about branding and how to explain branding, she told me, listen, branding, when you think about, let's say, BMW, and they are there sitting down in the board of directors, and they are making decisions. So they have $1 million to spend in the new car, and they say, are we gonna do it in like the engine of the car, or in the new most amazing leather seats? And BMW is about driving. It's about the engine. It's about, having your car, and of course it's going to be luxury, but it's not about how comfy is the seat. So there's no mistake, there's no doubt on where the money is going. And I think that's brilliant. I think that example really talks about what branding is. But branding is also, of course, the visual identity as well as the verbal identity, and how you are perceived. So the branding questionnaire also adds that. So, and that leads us to the second part of the course, which is the brand strategic framework, that it's actually like the Bible of the brand. I like to see it that way. And basically the brand strategic framework, it's the mission, it's the core values of your brand, it's the unique selling proposition, is a tagline that usually comes out of the questionnaire in the most creative ways. It's also adding visual identity. So like, for example, you can yoga is big and bold and global, but at the same time it's real and it's personal and it's approachable. So all your visual identity should be like that. And then it's also the verbal identity, how you communicate, what words do you use. So for example, in All You Can Yoga, one of our favorite words is essential. And we use that word a lot. We use that word in our manuals. All You Can Yoga is the essential teacher's manual, and it's the essential All You Can Yoga kit. And it's essential because it's something that you cannot live without, like yoga, for me. So yeah, that's pretty much the what forms the brand strategic framework. Also in the course, even before going to the brand strategic framework, I like to give homework. So when you're doing this process, I would encourage people to ask their families, their students, their customers, a few sets of questions. For example, what are 5 words that you would use to describe your brand or your particular teaching style? And what are 5 words that you would never use? And that way you can, after you fill out the questionnaire and you know what you think about your brand, then you have a more outsider point of view, what people that know you feel about you and get about you, and that will help you, put into the brand strategic framework what are the words that are already out there in the minds of people, and that's branding. And and then the last part is actually manifestation. So after you have a solid brand, what do you do with it? So for each person, of course, it's going to be completely different, but the brand strategic framework will be that document that you're going to give to a graphic designer, that you're going to build your workshop based on that, or your next product is going to reflect something from there. So for each person, it's going to be different, but the exercise that I like to do for myself is to create a timeline and say, okay, for Vanessa to feel successful in what I'm doing right now, how much money do I need? How much hours of my time I need to put into? What are the resources that I already have, and how can I work with them to make something out of it, to make something new? So, for example, in All You Can Yoga, the resources that I had was the developers and the creative team and the know-how on building websites. So that's how we started. And we have pivoted so many times since the beginning, but that gave us that jump, that start.
So how does someone balance between these two aspects that might be divergent in some ways? In your case, it sounds like they weren't, but say like you have certain skill sets and certain resources, and you live in a certain place, and you have a certain background and access to certain people with other backgrounds. So say developers or web designers or something like that, but then also your vision and what's true for you and being aligned with that vision that you've just kind of created through this process, or that you sort of know in your core is what's right for you. I think that's a question that I have so often, and it seems like it does play into branding, which is like how do you balance using what you've got and being opportunistic in that way, which isn't always bad, but then also really focusing on being true to yourself and your vision and your mission for what you're doing with your brand. But your brand is also you, right? Like for everyone listening to this right now, like we're all entrepreneurs. Like every yoga teacher in my mind is an entrepreneur. Every yoga studio owner is an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. Like anyone who could be watching this is an entrepreneur in my mind. So we have to kind of use what we have, right? Because we're in many ways on our own in this work. So that's my biggest question to you, I think, is how do you balance those two things?
I think it's as simple as verbalizing what you need. I think none of us do it. I mean, us too. The only way that we possibly could be working together now is because I harassed you.
Wow, I've asked you back.
So like, you know, I was in love with NamaStream, and actually we were talking about what if we do something like hosting videos so we can, you know, share yoga classes from our ambassadors. And then when we were talking about the idea, I came across NamaStream online and I said, I don't need to do it myself. I can partner up with someone that is already doing it, and the only thing I did was to write you an email, and a beautiful friendship and a beautiful work relationship came out of that. So I think it's as simple as that.
I love that
Yeah,
answer. I think ask for what you need, and I
yeah,
mean there are a lot of different implications for how to do that, but I think just you're right, verbalizing it the way you that's what you said as a response to my question. I think that's 100% right. That certainly neither of us would be in the positions that we're in if we didn't ask
yes,
publicly and risk having someone say no. I mean, and lots of times people do say no. I'm sure they say no to you too. Like people say no to
yeah,
me every day, and it's just part of the. You just have to be okay with that. That okay, then that means that that's not that relationship or that customer or that mentor is not going to be a good fit for me right now, and it's not personal, and it's just, but you have to be able to do that, I think,
yeah.
to accomplish what you want with
And
your
that's also the reality of being an entrepreneur.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think, you know, that's so interesting because branding has always been fascinating to me. I come from a background in politics and in kind of environmental and social justice work. And the whole reason I started a software company was so that I could fund that work, which is a whole other story for another day. But I have been for 15 years since I first started working in politics at a really, really young age. I've been fascinated with branding because I was really interested in how corporations have been able to use this process that you're describing. And I think you do it, you're right, in a much more heart-centered way, but corporations have been able to use this to kind of manipulate people for a really long time. But the process doesn't have to be manipulative. So I think that it's, you know, in my mind, branding is one of the most powerful things you can do to invest in your work, regardless of what your work is, because it's quite honestly the way people experience you, the way they experience your brand, the way they experience your movement, your organization, your company, your studio. If
Yeah, and
yeah.
also, sorry that I interrupt, but so many times we feel lonely in our work. Like we feel like we have the world here over our shoulder, anyone to talk about what. So I think just investing a little bit of time and and you know, resources in having a team that is working with you, helping you brainstorm and helping you come to terms with who you are, what you do, for the sake of what, I think is worth it. I think more, you know, the more heads, the better.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that often we think entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, and really I feel more it feels far more collective to me than lonely because I have this whole network of people like yourself who I can, you know, join forces with, and we're not always working on the exact same thing, but I still feel like we're working together. You know, everyone who works in the yoga space, I feel like, is working in wellness. So whether it's me working to help yoga teachers spread their word,
Yeah.
or whether it's you actually going out and teaching the class, like what we're doing is creating wellness and manifesting wellness in what we do. And so it's not competitive. And I love that you created All You Can Yoga in a way that it wouldn't be competitive and it wasn't based on competition, that it was this all-inclusive, like very open process and a way for teachers to support each other. And that's what I think, every industry needs more of, and certainly yoga can have as much of it as it can take, because that's why we're all in this field, I feel like, is to be supportive and to be open and inclusive. So I love that.
My favorite yoga quote of the moment is like, the goal of yoga union is yoga union, period.
Yeah, I love it. On so many levels, I love that. So just kind of logistically, I have a couple questions about the process of kind of doing this brand building exercise that you've created and that you work with others to do. How frequently do you recommend? I know you said that it's something that you're always kind of iterating yourself, but how often should someone kind of step back and say, what is it that I'm putting out there in the world? Like whether it's my profession as a teacher or a studio that I want to open, how often should I step back and look at what I'm doing and think through these questions?
Every time you're frustrated, every time you feel like you don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it, every time that you feel that you're off track, that you're completely non-productive. And as entrepreneurs, it's like this, sometimes we feel like we're on top of the world and we're achieving and we're manifesting everything, and sometimes we're like, there's no end to this. Like, where's the light at the end of the tunnel? Is ever the tunnel gonna end? So I think this process is for those dark moments.
Yeah.
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 Every time you're like in a situation where you're frustrated with your project, it's a good time to, come back to it. And every time you're starting something new, it's also a good way to start. So it goes both ways, either at the beginning of the tunnel or like in the middle of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm guessing that because branding encompasses so many things, like you were talking about, it's the design, it's the copy, it's everything like that. So and this is going more towards your background and kind of, maybe corporate design and web design and branding, but how frequently can you change things like that? Like how frequently can you actually change your logo and your tagline and the copy on your homepage? Like how frequently and sort of how drastically can you change that, and still be committed to the community that you've built?
I think you should change only when your image doesn't go with the concept of what you're trying to do. So for a website like All You Can Yoga, it's a little bit different because a website is a live entity on its own. So naturally, like Facebook, how many times Facebook has changed, and so is All You Can Yoga. We're always changing, we're always incorporating new stuff, we're always giving people something new to play with in our website. When it comes to the logo, I think it's always nice to refresh, but it depends like what's the reason behind it. If the reason is that you have a logo that is completely squared and you're trying to portray something that it's more like wobbly and fluid, and definitely change the logo and give yourself a nice refresh. But if it's not absolutely necessary, like, why do it? People, the more repetition, people get used to things and to stuff, and I don't know if it happens to you, but for me, every time that I change, it's like a little bit of resistance. And when I get to know whatever it is, a person, a place, the familiarity and the comfort of knowing what's going on, it makes me like it a little bit more. So I think the same happens with the visual identity of brands and stuff.
No, that makes sense. I'm trying to think about examples from a yoga teacher in particular. So say you wanted to kind of change your focus and who you focus on teaching. So say you've been teaching kind of power vinyasa classes and you have this more athletic background in your teaching profile, but now you've had a child. So a lot happens, right, whenever anyone has a child. Whenever any woman has a baby, everything changes. So now you want to focus on prenatal or kids yoga or something like that. Does that mean you need to rethink your brand, or is that okay? I mean,
Yes.
it's still okay.
Yeah, I would definitely say yes.
Yeah, because you want to incorporate those changes into kind of who you
Yeah,
are, who you've become.
definitely.
Yeah.
Or like if your logo is generic, you can always add like another color and so like a secondary branch to portray whatever new you're giving. So to give you an example, you can yoga. We started with ambassadors, and our color was always purple.
Hmm.
And now we're also having the All You Can Yoga Leader program, and it's blue. So it's color coded. So you kind of get the feeling, okay, I'm an ambassador or I'm applying to be a leader, and we didn't change our image, we didn't change our logo, we didn't change anything. It's just we added a new color to differentiate two different things that we're targeting.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And I think I don't want to get too hung up on the visual element of the brand either, because I'll say from talking with lots and lots of yoga teachers every single day for many, many, many months, I'll say that one of the things that I've noticed is that many teachers have perfectionist tendencies, I would say, and I also have these tendencies, so not to be down on anyone, but there's an element of I have to have my website perfect, and I have to have my logo perfect, and I have to have, XYZ figured out before I go big, or before I'm willing to put a class online, or before I'm willing to send that email to someone I really want to write a guest post for, or like there's this element of I've got to have that all figured out, and then I'll be able to do those things. And I just think that the process that you're describing is fluid in nature. And yes, you want to have brand continuity, and yes, you want to be very thoughtful about what you're putting out there, but there's also an element of just being yourself and putting something out there that's authentically yours, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because it never will. I mean, I don't know if you want to agree with that also, Vanessa. I don't want to speak for you, but it is never perfect. I am every day noticing something small that I want to change, and I have a software company, right? So there's like a million things that are tiny, tiny little things that are probably, not important, but and some things that are important, certainly in software, but like there's just so many things that if I could wave a magic wand, I would just change, and it never ends. Like my website
Yeah.
copy, nothing. It never goes away. And so I think that people use branding also as a procrastination tool. And so I just want to make sure that we're clear with everyone that's participating in this conversation, because I don't want to forward any more, put out any more of that perfectionism out there, because I think we all are hard enough on ourselves.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's also, I think it's all fifth chakra. It's how we verbalize, right? So often we're afraid to, for example, when someone asks, "What do you do?" and you're so used to the old speech that you don't incorporate whatever new you're doing because you don't have all the way figured out.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, for this course, I was falling into that pattern. So, this process is something that I did for the last 6 years. So I know it from, backwards, I know it. But I hadn't, sat down and write down all the stuff and like have all the materials together pretty like I have now. And I didn't offer it. I was, shutting down and shutting off, not offering something that it's my passion, that I love doing, only because I didn't have time to sit down and do it. So I don't know, a couple of months ago, I went to the studio to give my class, and this beautiful teacher was there teaching before me, and she was telling me that she's having issues building her website because she doesn't know what visual identity she wants to use. And I'm like, do you want to build your yoga brand with me? I have this and that and that and that and that and that, and this is my process. And I started explaining her like everything that we could do together, and really that's how it happened. And then I got home and I was like, in like 2 seconds I started manifesting. And and I think, college graduate until you graduate, and you're not a parent until you one day you already are. So we're never truly prepared. We just have to jump in it and start doing it and test it. And as I said, like a website is a living entity that it changes all the time. And actually my partner Alexandra, she also talks in bumper sticker all the time. And she says, you can never rush something that you want to last forever. And I love that.
I love that too. Yeah, I think, well, with that, I think maybe we should talk a little bit more about what you have put together, because I think people certainly can get a lot out of this conversation, but I know just from our experience last December that you've been approached by a lot of people who were wanting to have a little piece of your time to help them create their own brand. And so Vanessa has created a platform that will allow folks to work with her directly. And so Vanessa, I'm so proud of you for doing this, and I'm so impressed with what you've created. And I think that we should talk a little bit more about that for the people who are watching this who are interested in exploring working with you further.
Sure. Thank you. Well, it's a 3-week course. So you will schedule time with me, and it's like a mentor calls. So when you decide to take the course, you will get the questionnaire, you fill it out, and you schedule a session with me. So it can be like 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So we'll read together the answers, and we'll brainstorm, and we'll work together as a team. And then we will schedule again for the following week. So I'm gonna give you homework. And I love to say that this particular course and branding itself, your development is going to be related to the time and effort you put onto it. So the more that you dive in it, the more that you will get out of this. So I'm always going to push, and I'm always going to challenge. That's kind of who I am. And so I'm going to give you homework for the following week. And basically the homework is that. It's like, now you answer the questionnaire. Now I want to see what people think already about you. So it's creating a survey and collecting the feedback from the people that are already working with you. And then we review that in the second session, and we work together on building the brand strategic framework. And after that session, again, you go home with homework. And the homework for that is really getting inside and understanding, how do you want to spend your time? Like, what is it that you need to feel successful? And understanding what are realistic goals. We knew since December that we wanted to put this branding thing together. That cannot happen in 2 weeks. It's impossible. So we said, okay, let's make it into a winter goal. And like in 5 days, it's already spring. So I think we did it. So it's all about that, like making realistic goals depending on what time you have and how much effort you can actually put it into it. And that's the third and last session, is to set goals. So if you need to contact a designer, that would be a goal. If you need to create an event, that would be a goal. If you need to use NamaStream and film a yoga class, that's a goal. So we'll talk about it together, so you have accountability and you know that someone is there watching your back and giving you support. So that's pretty much it. If you wanna do this process with me, that's optimal because of what I said. It's always better to have someone to work with. It's always better to have someone reflecting back at your answers and to hear yourself. I think that's the most important part. For the people that want to do themselves and the people that are more of a self learner, like you said, you're not.
That's right.
We also developed an online piece thanks to NamaStream. So they are two-part of a video that is showing a first session of the questionnaire. So it's me and my dear friend Paola Pinto from Balance Guru. She's amazing and her brand is absolutely spectacular. And it's pretty much a conversation in between the both of us, talking about branding and sharing her answers in the questionnaire, and me pushing her and kind of brainstorming together about her brand. And it's also nice because when you hear someone else and you see the different things that come up for them and the challenges that they have finding their own brand, it gives you a way to think about yours. So we also have that option, and then the second portion of the video is the brand strategic framework and the next steps. And also we've put together samples for the guys that wanna do this by themselves on their own time. And you'll know exactly what to do, when to do it, what's the homework. Everything is there outlined for you guys. So there's two options there, and I hope that really helps yogis to make their passion into a professional reality.
Yeah, I love it, Vanessa. So just kind of to recap, what happened after we did this webinar in December, where we just really touched a little bit on these ideas, we got overwhelmed with responses, and Vanessa and I put this together, and mostly Vanessa. Vanessa is the brains behind this operation, put together this beautiful
inspiration.
Well, you put together this beautiful opportunity to kind of offer this project at scale, because I mean, Vanessa charges thousands of dollars, her company, to do this kind of work with other companies, and so she put together something that's much more manageable for those people who really want to have a piece of it. And the program that she's talking about, where you get to work with her, is actually, you get all of the other content as well that's online. So there's this great two-part video session where Vanessa is walking through this process with another yoga teacher and entrepreneur, and you get out, a couple of hours basically of them going through this process together on beautiful video, and then you get all these documents to go through kind of on your own as well. So and then there's also this opportunity to have one-on-one mentorship with Vanessa if you opt for the kind of premium version of what she's offering, which is really, really generous, Vanessa, for you to put that together. So, I think that I hope everyone has gotten a lot out of just, learning from Vanessa on this kind of webinar. We'll do more of these in the future as well, and dive a little bit deeper into other examples and kind of bring teachers on and feature them in hot seats, because I think that everyone can benefit from learning more about branding. But if you want to dive deep, and if you're in a space in your business where that makes sense for you, you can go click the link below this video. It's buildyouryogabrand.com is the little page we put together, and you can learn all about the course and more in depth about Vanessa's framework. And then, you know, the course itself is offered on the NamaStream platform. So if you've been interested in learning more about NamaStream, it will give you a chance to test it out as a student. So that's kind of a fun thing to get to do as well. So, you know, I just hope that this was helpful. I look forward to, we don't have an option in this webinar tonight for a live Q&A, but I hope that you'll send us your questions. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to know more about in terms of branding, because you know, we'd love to be able to be a resource to you and your needs in your business. Anything else, Vanessa?
Yeah, actually, I want to invite you to another live webinar about NamaStream and all the amazing work that you do. Because, you know, I think NamaStream is really an amazing opportunity for yoga teachers and yoga studio owners to create a passive income, and that's always nice, right? That's the dream. And we as yoga teachers, we study and we spend so much time just, you know, feeding ourselves with knowledge that we already have, and I think it's so beautiful, the platform that you created, and in the way that you're allowing people to share what they do and what's their passion. So yeah, I would love to invite you and do this the other way around, where I get to ask you the questions and put you on the spot.
Yeah, you can ask me about my cartoon character.
Yeah, tell it
Thank
now.
you. I would love it. Yeah, it's like these conversations are really helpful, and let's look for ways to bring in some of the members of our audience who, you know, we can't see any of you on this kind of webinar. It's amazing that we can do this technology, that we can have these conversations and be hundreds, if not thousands, of miles apart. I think I heard from people in Finland and Ireland, and you heard from people in the Philippines today getting excited about the call or asking for recordings. And so that's all marvelous, but there is still something missing, that we get to talk to each other, which is amazing, and you get to hear us, but we don't get to interact with you as much as we'd like. So we'll try to make that happen as well on one of the next conversations that we put together. So yeah, so I think it's just about time to wrap up for the evening. I just encourage everyone to check out Build Your Yoga Brand. Have a peek at Vanessa's framework. She's got some great visuals on there that, if you're a visual learner, I think will help you to understand this process that we were describing on the webinar tonight. Look through it. Let us know if you have any questions. You can always reach me at jennifer@namastream.com and Vanessa at allyoucanyoga.com.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I love you, and many blessings for everyone.
Thank you. Love you right back. Namaste.
Bye. Good night.